If you guys know anything about preseason football, there's a lot of shenanigans that go on. Like, bro, what was that? Like, CD Lamb, like, bro, that was. That's what I mean. And then, like, bro, look what Dak said. Like, you gotta be kidding me. Any, anyway, though, the team we're talking about today has had struggles against the Cowboys. Like, a lot of struggles. Like, a lot. But who knows how good they'll be this year? No one really knows. For that reason, it's time to talk about them in last roster grade of the summer. Let's go. And with that, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to the Fun NFL. Please like and subscribe if you guys enjoyed the last roster we will be going through this offseason. Again, the season does start in almost less than 3 weeks, something like that. It's coming up quick. Very big things coming very soon. But again, we'll get to the Giants roster. If you have not watched past rosters, grades of rosters, again, go all the way back to the Titans one, which is the first one we did. But like guys, at this point, I think you guys have seen past ones because it is the last one. Anyway, though, this New York Giants team will be very fun to talk about because of the very peculiar situation they're in. Again, I talked about the title. They have a very difficult start to their schedule, which we did go through. I analyzed schedules and looked at them and made some thoughts on how those would work out. Again, back in, May? But for the Giants specifically, they had the best draft. Yeah, I said that. Yeah, best draft, I think, overall. And that's something that I think could really help them this year. But outside of that, we'll get in their rosters. We always start with quarterback. But again, like I said, if you have not watched past ones, the only thing I missed was, again, 234 points is about average, which we got to a couple days ago. And then also points. Again, if there's a zero or F at any position, it's going to result in 0 points, which is not good. Anyway, though, the Giants' quarterback situation is one of the most bizarre in football. Not as bizarre as the Browns, but it's pretty darn close. They have two vets. They've got Jackson Dart, who we'll get to later, and then Tommy DeVito, who, I guess he's here. Russell Wilson is the day one starter, or at least unless he gets injured. Russ, again, the jury has been out on him actually being a good quarterback for a good minute now. Again, we look back to 2021. That was the last year where he really looked like Russell Wilson of old, and even then that might be a little bit of a nice thing to say. 2022, he was absolutely horrible outside of Week 18. 2023, he was disappointing, but still had the numbers weren't awful. Then last year with the Steelers, we all know how they went. They got it to a 10-3 record, and then they kind of flamed out after that. With that said, though, Russ's biggest issues are the fact that he can't see over the middle. He's too short. It's pretty simple there. He loves to move around in the pocket way more than he should at times. He's lost a lot of that athleticism that we might have saw just, again, like I said, a couple years ago. Still probably the best deep ball in football down though. Again, like I said, he just can't see over the middle, and he can't really run a true offense with him, which is the biggest issue. But with this Giants team and how their personnel has worked out, I think he can still be productive in this offense. With that said, though, Jameis Winston kind of gives them a little bit of a different look. Obviously, being exaggerating there, he gives them a very different look. Again, it's the same thing every year with Jameis. He's going to do whatever the hell he wants. He's going to throw a lot of picks. He's going to throw a lot of touchdowns. He's going to have some awful games like he had against the Chiefs, which is his last game starting last year. And then he's going to have a game against the Broncos where he throws for 500 yards and they still lose. But yes, Jameis has had a wild career again. We all know about 30 season. Again, that's a long it was 6 years ago. That's crazy. But last year, the Browns, his numbers were not great. He had a couple of really good games, again, especially against like the Steelers in the snow, stuff like that. But outside of that, guys, we all know what Jameis is going to be. He'll give you something, but there are going to be games where you're just not going to be able to win because of how he plays. It's pretty simple like that. You never want that in the quarterback, and he is a guy who does give you that. I love Jameis, guys, but like we know what's up with him. All right, Jackson Dart. I love his aggression. That's his best trait. He is not afraid of putting balls in tight windows or passing in tight windows. Outside of that, though, we all know that he still has a lot of work to do. He has not really ran an actual NFL offense just yet. He's looked pretty good from what I've seen on training camp tape, which I don't love, but it's what we got. And then, he looked okay in preseason. He rolls with things, which I like a lot as well. I would like to see him audible a little bit more, maybe get a little bit more confident in his pass protections, because he definitely has the awareness and overall wherewithal for that to be a big part of his development, because we saw in college he actually didn't do too bad with that, even though, again, a lot of the protections were very simulated, as well as the fact, again, good ball placement. I like his touch at times as well. Jackson Dart doesn't have too many big issues outside the fact that, again, he's not really some physically crazy generational quarterback in that sense, but again, he knows what he is, and again, he'll push the ball downfield, which is huge because they haven't really had that quarterback in a minute now. Anyway, though, fourth string might not make the roster. Tommy DeVito, again, he had that, we all know about 2023 where he kind of had that little bit of a ride there. Then last year, the Giants, again, he got absolutely embarrassed against the Bucs, and that's kind of been the extent of his career. He's not a very physically imposing quarterback in the fact that he can't really throw the ball more than 40 yards, and again, he's not going to be driving the ball in any tight windows or making any crazy throws. But at the end of the day, I mean, I guess he can run this offense. Not really, though, because they really have been that effective ever since that last game against the Packers 2 years ago. With that said, the Giants quarterback position I'm actually going to give a C at. That might be a little bit nice, I think. We're going to give him a C minus. Just because I don't think, yes, Russell Wilson at the end of the day is probably an average quarterback at this point in his career, just because there's still a lot, many good things he can do. But again, there's going to be games where this offense is just really struggling to move the football. And then you put Jameis in, and yes, there's going to be games where he throws for 400 yards. We understand that. But then there's going to be games he's going to be unplayable. And then you got Jackson Dart, who's a rookie. He's my third QB3, I think, in this draft. I didn't have any crazy label on him. I don't think he's ready to really take on a big role, especially in this offense where there are guys. But how many good guys are there actually with this group? And then again, you got Tommy DeVito, who, So I'm going to say a C minus for this group, especially because it's definitely not one of the most ideal situations to be in. But at the end of the day, probably better than what they had going into last year, if we're going to be honest. With that said, though, let's get into these skill positions because there's a lot of good things to talk about with these guys. And getting this thing started, again, this running back room is a very fun group to talk about. There's one guy that I think should be starting, but he's not. We'll get into that a little bit later. But Tyrone Tracy had a very surprising rookie season. No one was thinking he was going to go out and have it was an 1,100-yard season. I didn't like his red zone efficiency. That was my one big gripe with him. Also, the fact that I don't think he's a really huge difference maker as a back, but he can make things happen when he needs to at times. Also, again, he breaks tackles pretty well. I like his contact balance, and also he does read holes pretty well. But there were games last year where he got completely shut down. They didn't really use him the way I wanted him to. I think he is a little bit schematically dependent in the way, again, he does go about reading off blocks, but at the same time, guys, he had a very solid season last year for rookie. No one was expecting that, and again, especially for a fifth-round pick. I do expect Tyrone Tracy to take a little bit of a step up this year, but at the same time, he's not my favorite running back in this roster. Let's put it like that, but he's definitely, again, their starter for sure. Devin Singletary was pretty awful last year, all things said. He just was not good. He was very successful, or as successful as he could have been, in a very really bad running situation with the Texans in 2023. He's always been somewhat of a decent receiver, even though he's never really gotten the targets. He does have that part in his game, and again, he really hasn't looked like a great back since honestly his rookie season, if we're being completely honest with you guys. He had that one 2021 with the Bills where he put up decent numbers, but outside that, guys, he's just not really a guy you're going to really expect to be like super workload dependent, and also at the same time, he's just not that great. As a backup, though, he'll give you good play. Cam Scatabo, there we go. I love this guy. It's pretty simple. He's just a straight-up bowling ball. He's not going to give you massive runs. He's not going to break out a 70-yard touchdown and blow by everybody. But he's going to basically do everything else for you. He breaks tackles with the best of them. That is one of his best traits. Not as good as Ashton Jeanty, just because Ashton Jeanty is Ashton Jeanty. But still, he was my number 2, or I think I had a number 4, maybe number 4 running back. Cam, there aren't really many things to talk about with him actually having issues with, and even then there's not huge concerns. But again, like I said, he also has really good contact balance, breaks tackles really well. Also just very aggressive. He's not afraid of really doing anything out there. And also as a receiver, he is so savvy. He just does so much stuff that, again, a lot of other guys really just don't have the development to be able to do yet. Eric Wright, yeah, he really hasn't worked out much at all. But this running back room gives me a lot of good things to say. I'm going to give them a B minus, which might be a little bit nice, guys, but you don't understand. Like, I'm really high in Cam Scatabo. There we go. And I think this will actually be a pretty solid group. And even then, like, guys, Tyrone Tracy's still a good back. I don't understand putting him in the C tier because, like, let's be honest, the Tyrone Tracy isn't some high-end back. And then Cam Scatabo is still a rookie. So you got to understand that. But at the same time, I really like where this group's going. So that's what we're doing with that. Now looking at this receiver position, I don't think this is a bad group at all. Many people will be like they didn't really do anything here, which is true. But they have one of the best receivers in football, Malik Neighbors. He changes direction better than any receiver I've ever seen. It's just, yes, Jamar Chase, the way he runs routes is just different. But Malik Neighbors, I might even say changes direction better. We're talking about at the top of the route when you need to sit down, he creates 3 or 4 yards off it. It is insane. That's what he does. His routes are so quick, even though they're not always the most, like, to a T per se. But, guys, like, at the top of the route, he's, like, one of the best receivers I've ever seen. He can change direction so well. So explosive. Guys, there's really nothing wrong with Malik Neighbors. I do think some people are, like, really pushing him to the fact where if he doesn't have a 1,500-yard season, they might go crazy. I think that needs to be taken off the table because, guys, he's not the third best receiver in football like some people think. Talent-wise, he's probably there, but still. Malik Neighbors, he's so good, but again, I think there's got to be some sort of like back down on that because that's just it's not fair for any receiver. Unless I don't know, you're Jerry Rice. Anyway, though, moving over to their number 2, who is literally their slot, and Wando Robinson, averaging 7.5 yards per catch. I don't care what position you are, is absolutely gross. And yeah, 93 catches is crazy. He got basically force-fed the target. The ball, he does get open pretty well, though. It does create some decent separation, but he's really just an underneath Murchie guy. So he runs a flat route, I guess, pretty well. I don't know. He's not really any sort of high-ceiling receiver. He's pretty good in zone coverage, getting in those open holes. And like I said, he does create separation pretty well, which is good. But, guys, there's just no ceiling with him. He's literally just their slot receiver. He'll give you decent stuff, but, like, guys, there's not much to him. Next up is Darius Slayton, who I think is actually a very underrated player. I'm not acting like he's actually that great, guys, because we all know he's not. Outside of his rookie season, I think he's had, what is it? 4, 7. Yeah, he's had, again, as a rookie, he had more almost as many, or half as many touchdowns he's had since, something like that, whatever, though. He's not a guy who's going to really put up any sort of consistent production in terms of, you can actually hit the football to him, but he'll make a big play once in a while. He does run I really like his vertical routes is probably the best way to describe him, and also he does run pretty consistently when he changes direction, as well as the fact that, again, he's always going to be a reliable guy in the fact that you can get him the football. Not when I talk about consistent production per se, but there are going to be plays where you need someone got to make a play. He can make it on a decent clip, which is pretty good. But at the same time, guys, like Darius Slayton, again, he's the number 3 guy, and you don't really want him to do anything else. Jalen Hyatt's been a bust so far. Lil Jordan Humphrey, I mean, I guess he's a yak threat. I don't know. He's something like that at this point in his career. Amir Smith-Marsette's fast, kind of all that he is, and even then he's pretty stiff. And then Zach Pascal, I thought he was. I'm shocked he's still in the league, and you got a bunch of guys probably won't make this roster. This receiving room is pretty fun though. I'll give them a C+. I think is fair to say. It's just that, we'll give them a B. No. Do I give them a B? I'll give them a B-. I'll give them B-. Because Darius Slayton, I'm a fan of him. I like his game. Wanda Robinson's just kind of an average slot at this point. Malik Neighbors is so good, we understand that. But then after that, it's we don't know. So I don't think it's a bad receiving room by any means. But at the same time, I'm thinking of being nice, giving him a B-, even though Malik Neighbors is that good. Now we look at tight end. This is a group that is just not the greatest. Theo Johnson I like a lot just because of the fact that he just has a lot of potential and I like a lot of his game. But at the same time, guys, he doesn't have great hands. He's still a raw receiver, and he's an absolutely horrible blocker. Simple as that. Yes, he's fast. Yes, he can make a play once in a while. His yak presence is definitely there, but I don't really know how much you can really rely on him as a starting tight end at this point. I think he still has a lot of work to do in terms of his development until he actually be a guy you could really call a solid starter. Daniel Bellinger, he's a bum. Chris Manners is also a bum, but I think he's a little bit less of a bum than Greg Dulcich. Hasn't done anything since 2022, that being his rookie season. For that reason, I'm going to give this tight end room a D. I don't really like what's going on here. Again, nothing against Theo Johnson. He has an amazing story, but he still has a lot of work to do. He's not a starting caliber tight end at this point. And then, again, all these other guys have proven they're not that. Chris Manners can block a little bit, but that's about it. So, yeah, not my favorite tight end room in football. Time for the offensive line. And for this Giants offensive line, it is a group that has yet since, I think maybe 2022 to put up a above average EPA per play. I'm not big on those numbers, but it does quantify what they've been like. They weren't actually too horrid last year, but they still weren't very good. On the PUP, expected to be active for the regular. Okay, that's good. Guys, Andrew Thomas is a top 5 tackle in football. I firmly believe that overall. Again, he missed most of last season, or was it all last season? It was something like that. I forgot how many games. He missed a boatload of games though. Yeah, he missed a lot. He got injured against the Bengals. That makes more sense now. I don't really remember that injury. But whatever. He is so good. After a pretty awful rookie season, he has been, again, so good for them. As a pass blocker, he's just an absolute wall. There's no way around it. You cannot power against him. And there are times where you can't beat him on a counter, and that's probably his only flaw there. But again, that's rarely that happens. And as a run blocker, he's very, very, very good at sustaining and, again, holding on blocks, which is huge, especially for a team that doesn't really have another blocker that's really going to be big like that. Outside of that, though, James Hudson is a solid backup because he does give you upside play at times, which a lot of other guys just won't be able to. John Runyon's a solid guard as well. He didn't have his best year, but again, there's a reason he kind of cashed in last year. He get really solid 2023, though, and I think, again, he's still a good player overall. Aaron Stiney was never really that good with the Bucs. There we go. But since moving over to the Giants, he has been a solid backup. John Michael Smith Jr., he was never a guy that I was super high on, but I couldn't ignore the fact that he does have solid athleticism and a really good burst for a center. And that might be a little bit weird, but in terms of a run blocker, still hasn't been effective there, though, and he's had a tough first 2 seasons in terms of actually playing pretty well. Again, the performance being or you need to, and also on film, maybe making an impact instead of getting roasted in pass pro where he's never been the greatest. Austin Schlottman is not great as a backup. There's definitely better guys to have, but I mean, at least he has some again experience in this group. Joshua Zudu was horrible when he played. Greg Van Roten's a below-average guard. Jermaine Illuminor, again, he wasn't awful last year. I still don't think he's a starting caliber player though overall, just because there are games where he just does not block. It's bad like that. But at the same time, like there's worse guys to have. Evan Neal, we all know he's slow as a sloth. He's just so bad. And then you got Marcus Mabo, who I liked him as a prospect. I don't know how much that's going to really make a difference here, but I like his game. But anyway, this Giants offensive line is solid depth. The starters across the board, outside of John Michael Schmitz and Greg Van Roten, I don't have too many issues with. It's not the worst offensive line in the world. I'm still going to give them a C- though, because they still have a lot of work to do in terms of guys like Greg Van Roten and John Michael Schmitz actually being a good player. And then again, the depth is solid. I think, you know what, we'll give them a C. I'll be nice for this group. That's going to be 6, 10 points, 8, 10 points for this offensive line. I think that's good. We do the math, 14, 21, 21, 20. We get to 76 points for this offense, which is not ideal, but if we can zoom in on that, there are worse offenses in football. That's going to be a D, which I don't really think is fair. I don't know why that's so low. But, wait, did I do that right? No, I think I did. We're going to say a D+. The biggest issue with this offense is outside of Malik Nabers and again, Andrew Thomas, they don't really have a guy that can really compare to them in terms of the actual ability, and also there's just not really much secondary, like, thump. And then again, they haven't really improved tight end much at all. And the offensive line, again, like I said, saw some issues. And again, quarterback position is a little bit of a hole, obviously. So this offense, I expect to struggle a little bit, but not a little bit. They'll struggle for sure. They're not going to be an offense that's going to score 20 points every week, which will be an issue. But with this defense, who knows? And moving into this Giants defense, it is a group that has a lot of high expectations and, again, a lot of big acquisitions. We'll start on the D-line as we always do. But again, like I said, there's a lot of fun things going on here. Rakeem Nunez-Roches, though, to start off with, he's a very fun guy to watch as a run defender just because he is a guy who consistently gets off blocks and makes plays. But at the same time, as a pass rusher, he has absolutely no game. He might penetrate once in a while. That might be nice because he does not have a consistent bull rush. His straight arm is probably his best bet. But even then, he doesn't have the really the explosiveness or really just straight up tenacity off the line to be a guy you could really see, again, consistently getting pressure from that spot. There's a good thing they drafted Darius Alexander, who I was very high on after watching film. Wasn't able to get to his film in time to actually put him in my rankings. Sorry for that, but again, the film wasn't available to me at that time, so I watched him play. He showed a lot of good things. Biggest thing was, though, he's just a straight up baller. Just that's his game. He just consistent, like when you watch him, like he knows what he's doing every single play. And it doesn't work. His improv still probably gonna get a little bit better, but I really like his approach because he has a very consistent idea of what he's gonna do, which for a lot of guys just doesn't happen. Jeremiah Ledbetter, solid run defender overall, but he's such a bad pass rusher and such a big donut there, and also the fact that he's not gonna be really big, like in terms of tackling, gonna really do much either. It's just not really a guy you're gonna really probably see consistently on an NFL field, to be honest with you. Other side's Roy Robertson Harris. He's a guy who at times has shown good play, but overall, guys, like he's never been really a consistent pass rusher, and he's never been the most fun or impactful run defender. He does give up, again, in terms of gap control, he's not always the greatest, again, keeping things tight. But at the same time, who really cares when you're going to get a sack out of him or a pressure out of him probably once or twice a week? Elijah Chapman, do not care about him. DJ Davidson's a solid backup nose tackle, but it really doesn't matter when you have the best nose tackle in football. Not even that. The best probably defensive lineman in football, and Dexter Lawrence. Last year, he didn't really play at all. No, he did. I'm joking. Sorry I said that. He didn't yet. I was thinking of Andrew Thomas. No, actually though, he had 9 sacks last year. I did not know he had that many, but it really didn't matter because he had like a 22% pass rush win rate. No, my man, not pass rush win rate, pressure rate, as well as the fact that he's really developed some sort of swipe. I don't really know how to describe it. He always had a pinpole swim and just a straight up nasty bull rush. Guys, even if Dexter Lawrence gets quadruple team, he will get pressure. In some form. I'm not saying he's obviously not as good as a guy like Aaron Donald in terms of actually as a pass rusher, but the fact that he is such a dominant run defender, which is so underrated part of his game, and he's still giving you again pressure at the clip that he does, which most elite edge rushers don't even do, is just absolutely mind-boggling to me. He is so good. But yeah, for this D line, I actually like it a lot. Even though again, there really isn't another guy that's gonna give you consistent pressure. It doesn't matter because of how good Dexter Lawrence is. I'm gonna give them a B. it's not the greatest group, like I said, but Darius Alexander should definitely step in and do some stuff. So, again, this defensive line has a lot of high upside for Darius Alexander there, but at the same time, like, I can't really pretend. Like, again, it's Dexter Lawrence and, like, they're, again, an unproven rookie, then who the heck knows. So, again, if Darius Alexander steps in and plays the way I think he is, it is a better group. I could be ambitious to give it a B+, but I'm gonna stick with a B because yeah, this D-line was pretty horrid last year once Dexter Lawrence was out. Again, he's not gonna play every single down, just because again, with his play style and stuff. With that said, though, moving over to linebacker, Bobby Okereke is one of the most reliable players in football because his tackle rate is one of the highest in the entire NFL. Last year, he wasn't as effective in terms of the fact that maybe there were games where I don't think he was a little bit more hesitant to blitz, which was a little bit of an issue because he is the one who kind of runs things there. Outside of that, though, again, the injuries was a little bit an issue. His coverage grade was definitely a little bit lower than I thought it would be because on film he actually had a better season than he actually had with the Colts, really ever. So that's what you get there. Bobby Okereke, very reliable linebacker. There's not really another guy you want to be running things on defense. Mike McFadden. He plays so hard. He is not a guy you want to have tackling you because he's just going to knock the crap out of you. And also in coverage, he is a guy that can stick with certain types of players in man. And also I like his instincts a lot because that just comes natural to him like most guys do. But specifically with him, it's definitely something that stands out. He's a guy that I think with a little bit more refinement in his natural feel and zone coverage could be a guy that could be a good two-way linebacker. With that said, though, Darius Musau, is that how you pronounce it? I think it is. He's not very good. I didn't love him out of what is it? The place. The place. What is it called? Yeah, UCLA. I didn't really like his game really at all, just because he kind of like reacted instead of anticipated. We saw a lot of that last year to begin. I guess he got a little bit better, but guys, he's just kind of a donut in coverage too. Like, I don't know. We'll see what happens. I guess he's good depth because he gives them like, again, decent play overall, but he's not a guy that I'm like looking forward to watch. Chris Board, he's been on the team a while, solid special teamer. Demetrius Flannigan-Flowers has really fallen off after playing okay with the Niners for a couple of years there. And then Deontay Johnson and KJ Cloud probably won't make this roster. With that said, though, looking at this Giants linebacking core, I like what's going on. I'll give them a B here as well. That might be a little bit nice because there are people who don't really know Mike McFadden's game too well. But for what I've seen, there really isn't any issues with it. And then again, the backup depth isn't the worst either. But it really doesn't matter because, again, they probably won't have to be doing too much this year with what this pass rush will be bringing. Brian Burns he's not a high-end number one pass rusher, but he's still really good just because of the fact that he's really, really, really adapted off of the speed to power and started to kind of use an inside counter, which I've liked a lot because most of the time off of speed to power, he tried to kind of like pin the what is called tackle and not really do much after that, and you can kind of just hope for the for the quarterback to kind of just fall into his lap. But again, outside of that development, guys, he's still going to be a solid run defender. If we're talking about the statistically, but we all know on film he's not the greatest. So that's a good thing to mention there. But yeah, he's definitely a number one pass rusher. I don't know if he's an elite guy though. I don't think that's a fair thing to say for him. Outside of that, though, Kayvon Thibodeaux, it's kind of obvious what his game is. He's going to have a really good first step, and he's kind of like meh after that. Doesn't really have any sort of actual pass rush outside of kind of ramming into a guy and trying to get around him. And even then, like, guys, his pin pull swim, which is his number one move, isn't that effective because that's not really, you don't want that to be your number one, but it's what he's got, so we'll see how that works. And again, the pressure rate was pretty bad last year. I'm not saying he was absolutely awful last year, but he still wasn't very good, and as a run defender for a guy who, again, that was supposed to be kind of his like falling back, hasn't really shown much of that again outside of, again, that 2020, one season at Oregon. With that said, though, Abdul Carter will take over his role at some time. I'm not the biggest fan of Abdul Carter. Again, some people think he's the greatest passer, like the next Myles Garrett. He's not that. I was very, very pleasantly surprised to see that he actually used something other than a ghost move. Again, he's always had solid counters, but he actually started to show a swipe move and also a cross shot, which I was very, very really surprised to see that as well. So yeah, Abdul Carter, I'm not expecting to have some monster rookie season, but if he does, that would be awesome. I just want to see him put out consistent play as pass rusher. I don't really care what he does as run defender, though, to be honest with you guys. And then Chauncey Golston will be a good rotational guy as well because he gives you some pressure and also, again, will be more of that stabilizing force and being able to move the pocket a little bit and also able to clean up some Dexter Lawrence's influencing of gaps, which is good because you need guys like that. But for this pass rush, I really like the upside with this group. I'm going to give them an A-. The reason it's not higher is because Kayvon Thibodeaux isn't going to be a guy that give you consistent pressure down. Be honest with you guys. Dexter Lawrence, Brian Burns, and Abdul Carter have insane upside. We all know that. But I haven't seen this guys work super well together. I think it would be crazy for me to give them an A+. Some people might do that. I'm going to stick with an A, though. An A-, my bad. I almost said A. We could do an A. Who knows? It definitely should be that by the end of the year. With all that said, though, let's look at this very improved secondary. Okay, moving into the secondary, and again, like I said, with it being kind of like a very improved secondary, there's some truth to that, and there's some really not truth to that. Starting out with these cornerbacks, though, Paulson Adebo broke his femur in Week 7. He's been a really solid corner the past 3 years, though. As a rookie, he got burned pretty consistently and wasn't a reliable guy in man coverage. He's always been one of the more high upside guys in zone coverage just because of his instincts and the fact that he doesn't give up, again, ground off the snap, which is huge. But the fact that he was kind of able to develop some sort of press coverage influence has really helped himself become a more well-rounded corner, and also a guy that you don't have to be concerned about him giving up a big play if, again, he's against the wrong matchup. With that said, though, Paulson Adebo, I don't really know if he's a true number one just coming off that injury, but he should be a guy that will give him good play. Deonte Banks is absolutely awful, guys. He doesn't care. He kind of just sucks, to be honest with you, at this point. I kind of like what I saw as a rookie, but last year he just did absolutely nothing for me to think that he can be anything more than maybe a good backup. But even then, that's just not really fair right now because I don't know if his heart's in the game there. Drew Phillips, very fun rookie season for sure. He wasn't a guy that was really ever going to give you like a solid game, but he would make a play here and there, and you're like, yeah, good growth. And he definitely had an upward trajectory towards the end of the season. And also, matching against these physical tight ends, he did a really good job, even though he's not, again, the biggest guy. Trey Hawkins had his shot to start in 2022 and 2023. Last year, wait, was it 2022? Am I right? No, it was 2023. What am I talking about? He shot in 2023, wasn't good. Last year got injured, and he's just not a guy that I'm too fun and really thinking will be that good. Cordell Flott, he's he thinks, I don't know, that's what I'll say. He makes plays, but like, how much does that matter when you're getting burned every other play? The depth is not ideal in the secondary. Again, they got guys who have played, which I guess is something. But this cornerback room, I'm gonna give a C+. That might be just nice, to be honest with you guys. But I don't hate this group. Again, it's Deonte Banks who just sucks. Again, you really have like 2 starting corners, then some guys that could be okay. So I think I'm being generous giving them a C+, but it is fair because Paulson Adebo has been very good when he's been on the field. And then Drew Phillips again, I really like where he's going. And then the depth, again, this might be a little bit of a higher grade for some people, but I'm gonna stick with that. Now moving into the safety group. All right. Tyler Nubin last year was probably the most consistent guy in the secondary overall just because of the fact that he was, even though he played a lot in the box, he was very present in zone coverage. He really never had a play where he just got absolutely, like, ball flew over his head, like, what the hell has happened? That didn't really happen much. And again, he's never going to be a guy I can really want to see too much in man coverage just because he doesn't have the hip fluidity to be able to be successful there. But as a tackler, especially in the open field, he was very, very, very consistent. And he was kind of just that backbone for this defense at some points, too, which is not what I really expected out of him. But, hey, solid rookie season, Tyler. See if you can really take a step up now and maybe a guy who can move around a little bit more. Dan Belton, he's just a baller, guys. Like, again, I talked with Darius Alexander about this, but this guy just goes out there and plays his butt off. And especially last year, again, he's not the most athletically gifted, but he will give you 100%, and he will give you good play because he's learned a lot, and his instincts are just really freaking good. Javon Holland, down season after a very, very, very good 2023, but he still was at least a decent player for this team. And I did like the fact that I think he was a little bit more consistent in at least and we're talking about on the what is called deep balls. He was a little bit more consistent in the fact that, again, he didn't really take as many penalties, but at the same time, I don't think I saw the same dynamic player, though, so we definitely need to see that come back this year if we're really going to think he could be that guy. But they got him on a good contract, and they stole him away from the Dolphins, which was good. But anyway, for this safety room, I'm going to give them a B+. I think this will be a really good group this year, again, with the 3 of those guys, and Raheem Lane, maybe put him out there a little bit. He's got some decent speed and decent range, but that's about it, because, again, he's just not a guy who you really see making many tackles. But B+, 27 points for the safety position. And then when we looked at overall, 24, 16, 40, 12, 27. We get 119 points for this defense, which really is showing. I think this will be a solid group this year. That'll come out to a B-. Again, really the only issue is the fact that they don't have the greatest secondary overall, despite, again, there being some talent there. And then the defensive line, just, again, the fact that, again, there's not much continuity, and I don't really know if they're going to really be able to put it all together, at least this season. Maybe by the end of it, hopefully. But with that said, that's all I got there. Time for some special teams and depth talk before we get with the overall roster grade. And now looking at the special teams unit, it's basically the same outside of the returning situation. Graham Gano, guys, he's been their kicker for, 4 years. He's old, like 38 years old, so that's kind of what's going on. Again, he was with the Panthers a while. He's been with the Giants ever since. Last year, he was before he got injured. He was better than 2023, but, like, still wasn't that great. I don't know. Graham Gano's old. He's still got a big leg. He'll still do stuff, but, like, he's not the great's kicker at this point. Jamie Gillan's a decent punter. Scottish Hammer. Amir Smith-Marset is high upside as a return, and then Kesey Crater is not the greatest long snapper from what I have heard. And yeah, because I'm not an expert on long snappers. Got to make that clear there. The special teams unit overall has had their issues. I'm gonna give them a C. I don't really. There are gonna be games where they're gonna have them like a whoa or yeah, that's gonna happen for sure. All right, depth, quarterback depth. I'll give a B plus. I want to give it higher, but like guys, Jameis Winston. There's gonna be games where he goes out there and just completely loses. Again, Russell Wilson gets hurt in the third quarter. They're up by 10 points to the Cowboys. They're gonna lose the game. It's pretty simple. Again, if Jameis goes out there and it isn't his day, it's just how it's gonna work. Running back depth, I'd give a B plus as well. Receiver depth, I'd give a C minus. That might be nice. So C minus, B plus, B plus. We'll say a B minus there. So far, tight end depth, I'd give a C minus as well. So I'd probably say we're down to a C plus. O-line depth, I'd give a B minus. So we're probably back up to a B minus. So B minus for this offensive depth. Defensively, honestly, just looking at this as a whole, we'll go through this. D line, I give a B. Linebacker, I'd give a B minus. Pass rush, I'd give it a B plus. So overall, probably a B. Cornerback depth, I'd probably say is a C. So we're probably down to a B. And then I'd probably give a B. So honestly, we'll say a B and then a B minus. I'm gonna say a B for this Giants depth. There really isn't a position that I'm like too concerned about with their depth outside of maybe a receiver. Because again, if Malik Neighbors gets hurt, it's gonna be an issue. But outside of that, like, there isn't too many complaints I have for this because they definitely made that a stress this offseason. With that said, though, this Giants team is in a very tough situation because, yes, we know. If Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen get fired, this is not going to be a good season. We know that. Again, they're not my favorite coaches. That's not my favorite regime in the world by any means. But we all know when guys get fired, especially they just clear out the front office, unless, I don't know, the offensive coordinator goes out and does something crazy. This is just not going to be a season for the Giants. I'm really worried because their first 4 games are probably the hardest out of any other team in the league. It's similar to what happened in 2017 with Jerry Reese and who is it? Who the heck was their GM that year? I don't really care, honestly, guys. But yeah, those clowns who are running this team, that was a horrible season for them, and I'm worried that will happen again, despite this roster being much better than that team was in a lot of ways. And also, guys, we all know about the Cowboys. They haven't beat the Cowboys with Dak Prescott at quarterback since 2016, and I don't really see how that changes, to be honest with you guys. So for that reason, the identity is very shaky for me. I don't love where this team's at for that reason. I'm going to give them a D+, because I think there's some guys in this roster that are in a better situation than they were even last year, so I think that is good. That's probably the best thing I can give you guys. It's definitely one of the more shaky identities in football at this point. But with that said, D+, let's look at the overall grade. All right, guys, doing the math for the overall grade, we got 37, 15, 119, and what do we got? 76. That's not good. 76. We get 247 points to the Giants roster, which was definitely better than last year because it's a better team than last year. That's going to be a C+. This Giants roster isn't bad, guys. You got to understand this. There are positions that aren't great, like tight end and obviously quarterback. But outside of that, like the only thing that really scares me is the fact that again they need to win games this year, or their coaches are going to get the coach and their GM are going to get fired. It's gonna happen. You got to understand that. They probably should have got fired at the end of last season. But outside of that, for this team, it's not a bad team, and honestly, you could argue there are teams that are in the division that they can beat because they do have a pass rush that will be able to win games for them. But at the same time, it really comes down to the fact that this offense can really be efficient enough because there are going to be games where they just completely stink. But like the defense can only do so much and stuff. So I'm going to say C+. Not my favorite roster in football, but it's definitely not a bad one. Improved from last year for sure. With that said, though, that's all I got for the Giants. Had a lot of fun doing these rosters this year, guys. See them next year. But again, big week coming up. Oh, actually 2 weeks. Whatever, though. Tier week starts now.
Here is Winston, just going to take his shot, throwing towards the end zone, and it is caught! My goodness! Touchdown! Winston's prayer is answered.